Alright, so this is probably the worst set of picks we've seen so far. Let's talk through it just a little bit. So, Magma Rager, we've talked about how bad one health can be. You don't if I'm talking about that you don't want to pay 1 mana for a 1 health minion, you don't want to pay 3 mana for a 1 health minion. He may hit kind of hard, but he's usually not going to survive to do that 5 damage. Uh, so again, a card you really almost never want to take. Kobold Geomancer Wolf, Frostwolf Grunt, it's really the lesser of two evils here. It's honestly kind of hard to say which one's better in this situation. I think I'm going to opt for the Geomancers. We're hoping to see an Eviscerate and maybe another Backstab or so, and the Geomancer really helps those cards perform well. If we see it makes a Fana Knife's not completely unreasonable, whereas Frostwolf Grunt, again, you don't want to value, well, you're kind of paying basically paying either an attack or a health to get this taunt, as you're looking for a 2/3 or 3/2, like we've said many times in the 2-drop slot. But I don't feel our deck is aggressive enough that I don't feel like a taunt is really what we value. I think we'll get much more upside off the spell damage potentially, so we're going to take the Geomancer here. Alright, another fairly mediocre set of picks. The Dragonling mechanic. I used to value this card much more highly. I value it pretty low now. There's a 2/4 and 2/1. Neither of those cards individually trade very effectively at all. A 2/4, I mean, it usually just dies to a Yeti or dies to a Zordrake, and their minion keeps on trucking. And the 2/1 just dies to the hero power. So this card's okay. It does put 4 attack and 5 health on the board for 4 mana, which, I mean, comparable to Chillin' Yeti, but just much more easy to deal with because it's in 2 packets of health and damage than a Chillin' Yeti. Frostwolf Warlord, very okay card. Generally, in situations where this card is good, you're already winning, and so the ability doesn't matter that much. So, I mean, you really want to... This is essentially a 5 mana 5/5. Sometimes it's a 5 mana 4/4. It's never going to win you a game you're behind in. Not a card I'm particularly excited about. Fang Creeper, again, I'm not particularly excited about this card either, but I think this might be the best of the cards here. He is particularly hard to get through, having 6 health and taunt, and 3 attack isn't really anything to sneeze at either. Not quite on the same level as Ascension Shieldmaster, as he's a whole mana less and only loses 1 health, but we have no taunt. None of these other cards are particularly good. I would say this is probably the lesser of the evils here. Fits our curve a little bit well. We're missing some of the bigger drops. Frostwolf Warlord I don't think is going to be especially impactful in our deck. I think I'd prefer the Fen Creeper over that. And the Dragonling mechanic, just really not what we want to be playing on turn 4. A little bit too easy to deal with. I think I'm going to opt for the Fen Creeper here to kind of add another dimension to our deck. Maybe that is one thing to consider too. Taunt's something my deck can't do at this point. And so maybe we should look to... If we're given options like this where none of the options are particularly exciting, look for the one that gives your deck a new dimension. So Fen Creeper, for example, gives us taunt, and we didn't have taunt before. These other two are essentially just doing the same game plan we had before, where they're just adding power to the board. Neither does it especially progressively, so we're not going to take those. We're going to take the one that gives us a new dimension to our deck, which is the Fen Creeper. Alright, back to some pretty solid cards here. So this is honestly a pretty hard pick. I'm a little hesitant to take the second Flesh-Eating Ghoul, as this is another one of those cards where the first copy is really strong, but the second copy can often just become a 2/3 for 3 mana. If they can deal with the first one, odds are they can deal with the second one as well, as they have a 3-power minion. I think I'm much more interested in continuing to fill in our 2-drops here, and both these 2-drops are really solid. I think I'm going to opt for the Swampoos, I believe, here, as the upside can be a real upside and can win you games you have no business winning, whereas the Crocolisk is just kind of a... They both have basic stats. We're not interested in the Beast tagline, whereas the Battle Cry could potentially be very useful. So we'll go and take a second Swampoos, continue to fill in our 2-drops here. Alright.